You won the argument. You had the timeline, the facts, the screenshots proving exactly what they said. They ran out of moves, and you walked away with the receipts. So why is it 3 in the morning, and you are still replaying the entire conversation, word for word, like a film reel that won't switch off? This relentless mental replay happens to people who are otherwise composed and logical. It persists even when you have absolute proof of your position, making the obsession feel confusing and invasive. To stop the cycle, you have to look past the content of the fight and name the specific psychological trap that has been set for your brain. This is an animated diagram representing a healthy argument. It acts as a tool for arriving at a shared version of the world. Two people exchange views, concede points, and eventually build this highlighted overlapping center, a shared reality. You walk out of the room agreeing, at minimum, on what just happened. If you are arguing with a covert narcissist, they view the conversation differently. For them, an argument is a stage for performance and control. They actively prevent the conversation from ever reaching that shared reality, because the moment reality is shared, they lose the ability to write the story. When you produce objective evidence, they often abruptly exit. They withdraw, shift the topic, or leave the room entirely. They end the interaction before reality gets a chance to settle, taking the possibility of closure with them. Right before they vanish, they often drop a single ambiguous sentence, like, "Well, that's not what I meant." This functions as a hook. It diverts your attention away from their behavior and forces you to audit your own perception, wondering if you misunderstood the entire interaction. Because the argument didn't reach a natural conclusion, it remains an open loop. Your brain treats the interaction as unfinished business, keeping the system running long after the room is empty. The human brain functions as a prediction machine. It hates unresolved tension. When an interaction fails to close, your mind files the experience in a special mental folder marked "Come back to this." In 1991, psychologist Susan Nolen-Hoeksema identified a specific response to this distress called rumination. Instead of turning outward to distract yourself, you turn inward, replaying the experience over and over while asking what you could have said differently. This feels like problem solving, but it actually deepens the grooves of the distress. You are scanning the memory for a missing piece of logic that would let the tension resolve. This loop is the native environment of the vulnerable narcissist. A 2023 York University study found they hold grudges by ruminating on every slight. When they walk away, they leave you to manage the tension. You adopt their cognitive style, replaying the wounds similarly. The loop in your head is a reflection of their internal environment. You are breathing the same air of unresolved grievance that they live in every day. Beyond the psychological toll, this cycle creates physical, biological changes in how your brain processes memory. A 2012 study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychopathology showed that participants who ruminated after watching a trauma film developed significantly more intrusive memories over the following days than those who did not. Rumination acts as an internal retrieval cue. Every time you replay the argument, you are practicing the act of remembering it, making the memory more accessible and harder to ignore. Look at this neural pathway. With each replay, the brain wears the connections smoother and faster, turning a slow path into a high-speed track. The next intrusive thought travels down this line with less effort. The brain reinforces the distress with every repetition, greasing the track for future intrusions. This explains why just letting it go is a biological impossibility once the pathway is this well established. Standard therapeutic advice like journaling or processing your feelings often fails here. These actions keep the brain focused on the exact same neural track you are trying to weaken. The research-backed countermeasure is behavioral distraction. You must engage the brain in a task that is novel and cognitively demanding. This requires using your hands and your genuine attention. Cooking a new recipe or learning a complex skill forces the attention to leave the loop. Passive actions like scrolling through your phone are not demanding enough to stop the retrieval cue. Every minute your brain is genuinely elsewhere is a minute the trauma pathway is not being practiced. Left alone, the neural track begins to degrade, and the intrusions eventually become thinner and less frequent. You break the cycle by mechanically starving the hardware. You stop feeding the track, and the loop eventually loses its power to move you. The final step is accepting that the other person will never grant you closure. Admitting fault requires them to share reality, which is the one thing they have organized their entire personality to avoid. The rumination loop searches for an admission of guilt that is incompatible with their need for control. Waiting for that apology is waiting for an event that their psychological makeup is designed to prevent. You must issue the closure yourself, internally and without their permission. You decide what the facts were and that the conversation is over. The only person whose authority your nervous system will eventually accept on the question of what happened in your own life is you. This internal replay is proof that you entered the conversation in good faith. You expected a partner, and instead met a system that was never designed to close. That is a fact about them, not a verdict on your strength.